the one and only sexy mama, LaDonna Raeh.
LaDonna Raeh Show. Hey, it's LaDonna Raeh of the LaDonna Raeh Show, and I'm so happy to see you here today. Thank you so much for watching. I'm thanking you ahead of time. It's hot out there. I already spoke about the weather, and you've already heard all about it. And check on the elderly and the young people. I know you want to get them out of the house, but make sure they're hydrated. However, we do still have to be safe about it because, unfortunately, Chicago is still getting lit over the weekend when it comes to shootings. Now, I don't want to say we joke because we're not joking about this, but we speak very casually about how Chicago's weather, once it warms up, the very thing we have to worry about are the shootings. Now, Chicago is not necessarily only known for that, but when it affects your community, that's very important. There were nearly 72 people shot over the weekend alone. This is according to our special guest today, Mr. Perry Williams. This all starts from Friday to Monday. And I got first wind of it when I received an email from a guest that we were supposed to have today that had to cancel because her niece was part of the shootings over the weekend. This is where it's just too much. It's been too much. And I know that we are so programmed to give our hearts and prayers and thoughts and prayers and all of that. But what do we really do? When it gets hot, why do the triggers have to get, pulled? And nobody's thinking about who's involved. They're not even the targeted people or individuals that are getting hurt. We're killing kids now. And it's not something new. I'm saying now like it just happened. No. Kids, schools, 12-year-olds. A 12-year-old boy was riding his bike in the Garfield Park neighborhood and he got shot. I'm scared to let the children go outside and play. I'm scared to sit in the window. I'm scared of all of these things is what you're hearing different parents say from all over the citywide or the Chicagoland area. But this has got to stop, guys. And there's nothing more important than mental health. Now, I don't want to go on a tangent about all this stuff. I just wanted to point out, yeah, it's hot outside, but be safe. You got to check on your loved ones for when it comes to keeping cool. And you got to keep check on your loved ones to make sure that they're being safe. All right, without further ado, I want you to join me in welcoming our very special guest today. We're doing the radio series where individuals that have been radio personalities, whether it's behind the scenes, off to the side, or in front of the microphone. And I want to pay tribute to them because you've heard them for so many years. And just recently have you started seeing their actual faces. You see, I started in radio as a board operator. You never saw the people on the microphone, with the exception of those that got billboards. And not very many people got billboards back in the day. Now, I don't want to date myself, but there were no visual representations of people that were on the microphones. You heard their voices, and when they were out and about, they were safe. Nobody knew who they were. Now you see them, and you're able to relate and find out who you've been listening to all along. But this individual, I want to introduce him. Shay Shay has really made people step up their introduction game, okay? But we're talking about a news correspondent for over 36 years. He's been working in radio, president of World Communications Institute, does the news for V103 Chicago, aka WVAZ, worked with legends like Doug Banks, Bonnie DeJong, and Tom Joyner, not to mention Steve Harvey, news anchor for WBIN, which is the Black Information Network, and he's a teacher in ministry along with his amazing wife at Kingdom Now Ministries International. He's done entertainment interviews with those like R. Kelly, yes, I said it. We can still use his name on my show. Vesta Williams, rest in peace, and crazy Howard McGee. Y'all join me in welcoming our very special guest, Mr. Perry Williams.
Well, thank you, LaDonna. I appreciate that long, extensive, all those accolades that you attached to my name. I receive them.
As you should.
I'm not going to shy away from it. It's a part of my journey, and I'm glad to be a part of that journey.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's good to be on your show
Well,
as
thank
well.
you. Thank you very, very much. I was I can tell you something. I've been hearing I'm Perry Williams for a very long time. And you sound you I know your voice, right? And
Yeah.
when you agreed to be on the show, I was first of all, I just wanted to pay tribute to you. I want to say I am honored to have you on this here platform. And I wanted to have the opportunity for people to know who Perry Williams is and what you've done and how involved you've been because they don't know. And those that do know, God bless them. But those
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
aren't aware, well, I want to use this as Perry Williams awareness hour.
Wow. 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 Well, I can say this. All of the things that I wanted to achieve before I got in the industry, I have achieved. So everything now is gravy.
Mhm.
And I started like as you did as a board op. My first job was with WOWO, Fort Wayne, Indiana. It's a 50,000 watt station, and I was a board op overnights program, and top and bottom of the hour I was handling news duties. So that actually was a time, you probably heard this, when you want to get in the industry and you're born in Chicago, you got to go outside of Chicago to gain experience and then hopefully come back. I was
Mhm.
fortunate. I was able to come back home.
Yeah.
In between Fort Wayne and Chicago, I went to Cleveland for a year. So I went small market, medium market, then major market. God orchestrated that thing because you know what? I couldn't do it.
Mhm.
I couldn't orchestrate it. I could do it. I can follow through, but he orchestrated it. And just to be um, on the airwaves with people like, because, actually I had a short stint at V103 back in the day when Richard Steele was the morning man, he and Daryl Daniel. I think that was the early 90s.
Yeah.
And I was John Davis from Channel 2. I was his news writer. And that was a short stint, but that was my first time in Chicago radio, and that was my dream. And from there, I went to GCI, and I guess the rest is history. That's where I really, really appreciated radio, fun radio, as I think we had a conversation. It was fun. And then they handed us a check. So this was beautiful. This
Yeah.
was beautiful.
You didn't feel like you were working whatsoever because
Not,
you were
not
enjoying
really.
yourself. Yeah.
I couldn't have that much fun at home. I mean, just go to work and all the humor that I was surrounded by. Matter of fact, I got in trouble a couple of times uh, because management was like, "Well, we don't want to taint the newsman because he's got to be non-biased. We don't want him laughing at jokes that are out of pocket. So we're going to move him to another studio so that we keep the credibility of our news guy."
Oh my
Well,
God.
that program director left, and guess what happened? We went back in the studio.
Oh my
So,
gosh. It was
yeah,
almost like you were sitting on the bench while all the other kids were playing on the slides and the swings.
yeah, and I felt it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I felt it. Yep, yep. So yeah, that's my journey in a nutshell. I'll add this part. Now, when I got in the industry, I think I may have been 25, 26. And there were even people saying, "You're too old to get in the industry."
Mm.
And I was
At
like,
25?
yeah, well, that's older than a college student coming out, so that's the way management had their mindset, that we want to get the guys coming out of college. Well, I'm past college age,
Mm-hmm.
but I still had the sound. So I think that's what won them over. I had the sound, and I developed my sound. Matter of fact, I sound, I'm not beating my own drum, but I guess I have to, because of me teaching voiceover and podcasting. My sound is better now than it was back in the 90s
Wow.
because now I'm working with a trained voice.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, yeah. It,
when you say that you've evolved and you sound better now than in the 90s, is it because now you are you're is it because you're closer to being yourself, or are you more into being this lump of clay that has been molded into what you dreamed of being?
I think it's more the second, because I was always myself, but I didn't know my voice
Mm,
like I know my voice now. Um, Matter of fact, um, between GCI and where I am now, I became a news director for 5 years. And that's where I learned how to train other people how to have a certain sound. And then, of course, I worked at some broadcast schools, and that kind of also shaped me into what I am doing now, or where I'm at now. Because honestly, at GCI, I was a rip and read. I was just capitalizing on the strength of my voice, not um, the different levels that I can take my voice, but just using my voice raw.
yeah.
But now it's not raw because now I use different inflection. I may end my newscast on V103 as opposed to V103.
Mm-hmm.
So just to challenge myself every morning, because I want it to be interesting to me as well as to the person that's listening.
Yeah. I can see that. I too, I do voiceover work, and there's a lot of different sounds that I'm still finding
Yeah,
that
yeah.
I can use my voice to do to gain or to keep it interesting. I like that word interesting because you can get bored with yourself. This is why women change their
Oh
hair so
yeah.
much. I changed my hair quite a bit, but my voice is my voice, and you
Well, you
can't
see, I don't have that option,
well,
but
that yeah. Not well, you do, but you don't. I get it.
yeah,
So,
yeah,
with you finding your voice and being involved in 36 years, 36 years of news, I want to ask you this because I want everyone to know how this has strengthened you. Have you been behind closed doors in tears? Because news is just what it is. Like you said, you have to be non-biased. But have you
yeah.
ever reported on something, and this may sound like a silly question, that just really, really ripped your heart out? And how did you report on it with by sounding still like the news? And how did you handle it behind closed doors?
Ah, I don't know if I've ever been emotional while live on air,
Mhm.
but I do have an issue when I've read the story and I sit down for a minute and gather myself. Um, for instance, we talked, or actually, you talked a little bit early on about the mass shootings or the shootings in Chicago. That bothers me. In all my days, I don't remember as many mass shootings. And in my mind, I refuse to embrace that as a norm because it's not normal. And I'm gonna be honest. I'm just hoping that there is some type of um action. I know we have a brand new administration in the city, but there needs to be some type of action.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'll leave it at that without going deep.
Yeah. Cuz I'm telling you, I'm drowning over here. It's just a mess.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
and it's hard to not be emotional about it. I shared with you that I skipped the news this morning, and
yeah,
I may have gotten more done because when I watch the news, I find that I'm never going to be numb to it. I'm never going to go, "Oh, wow, okay. Yeah, can we get to the Target sale commercials, or can we talk about, something different?" I don't want to hear about it, but I want to know about it. Does that make
yeah.
sense?
Yeah, it does. And one of the things that I miss the most about the in the area of news is being a reporter, because then you get a chance to be in the thick of it. In other words, if there's a press conference with newsmakers, the mayor, the governor, whoever, I'm in a position to ask questions. So I feel that, or I believe that I'm the person who can be the go-between for the common citizen, pose the question that I think they would like to know. So I'm providing a public service, and at the same time, I'm doing my job as a correspondent or a reporter.
Mm-hmm.
So I love those opportunities. I haven't had many of them recently, but hopefully I understand that I'll be covering the Democratic National Convention, and I'll look forward to sticking a mic out there with a mic flag and gaining some questions or gaining some responses to my questions.
Yeah. Have you ever been in position as a news reporter where you were afraid or just hesitant to ask certain questions, but you did it anyway?
I don't know if I've ever been afraid. Most of the time, other reporters, like the television reporters, as I'm based in radio, they would jump to those questions right before me. And I'm like, man, I wanted to ask that. And you're working with veterans. I guess like Andy Shaw from ABC7. He's retired now, but he was one of those guys that jumped right at it. And Fran Spielman, these people, and Craig Dellamore from WBBM, working directly with people like that, they already have the fodder or the ammunition to just jump at it. And usually my question turns out being a follow-up question or one that's just geared for the African-American community.
Mm-hmm.
So there's got to be representation in that area.
And that's huge, though, because they cannot ask those questions from a perspective of being part of the African-American community.
That's correct.
You know
That's
what I mean?
correct.
So that makes you even more genuine with your inquiry. It's like, hey, this affects me and my people. Let me ask this question so that the community that I'm asking this for, you ultimately become a voice, can hear what the response is and go from there.
Yeah. I remember being, when I was news director for 24/7 News, which is right now it's under the iHeartMedia umbrella. I was the news director for 5 years. We had a beat reporter that covered, this is back in the day, Mayor Daley. And if that beat reporter was off, I would go.
Mm-hmm.
And then because I had press passes and all that, now if the mayor wanted to meet with African-American correspondents, I would get an invite. And we would sit and do lunch and we just banter about different issues. And I love that.
Mm-hmm.
I love that, having that opportunity to have the mayor's ear. Now, whether he responded or not, that's another story. But just to be at the table.
Yeah.
And who knows, he may take that idea and run with it or put it in the docket.
Yeah.
So that at some point it'll be addressed.
Yeah, someone heard it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Have you ever experienced just blatant racism? Have you ever been called the N-word by being a news reporter or being in this industry? And I'm not talking about by people that I mean, people saying that, you don't belong here. You don't belong here to cover this story. Have you ever experienced that?
It wasn't I worked for a station in Fort Wayne, Indiana. Here's the story. The station had some big summer events. And of course, all the employees were invited. Now, I was not going as a reporter, but I was an employee of the radio station. And I'm telling you, it was like they had a full court press on making sure that I was not gaining access. I think they wanted me to provide everything but a blood sample to get inside of the place. And this was the event that our station was sponsoring. And they had police, I guess, who were manning the gates. So I had to wait for someone who I worked with who may have been a department head to get me in. Yeah. So, I mean, it wasn't the N word, but it was
Very close.
it was indirect.
Yeah, very close.
It was indirect.
And you had to
Yeah.
keep
So
your
I think,
cool. You had to keep your cool because at the end of the day, you got to get the story.
yeah, and it wasn't like I was a name. I was an overnight board op.
Right.
So they're like, well, we don't know about overnight board ops. What time are you on the air? I said, well, I handle news duties at the top and the bottom of the hour.
Yeah.
From 8 o'clock to midnight. Oh, I'm in bed at that time. Oh, now see, I'm getting vetted, and yeah, it was really interesting.
And dismissed.
Yeah, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
I had this conversation with with three of my four sons when we visited my dad on Father's Day. And my dad is like a walking history book.
Oh boy.
But I was like, because he's 73 years old, he's like,
Okay.
I sit with him and I'm like, I've got my hand under my chin, like ready to listen. But my adult son, I won't say his age because then that puts a number on me. But my adult son was there as well, and we were talking about racism. And the funny thing, it's not funny, trust me, but we did talk about how we end up having to go above and beyond to prove who we are and to be even considerably equal, whereas it's based on our skin color. And how do we handle that? The one thing that did come up because of that was the way that we fought, or the racism that we dealt with, and I mean our people dealt with 40, 50, 60 years ago or more. It has not minimized, it just changed form.
Yeah.
It just changed form. And so when you see the protests, and you're covering this stuff, when you see the protests and everybody's, we've said everything except we shall overcome lately. And we're marching because something happened and we're very reactive. In your mind, are you ever thinking, we've been here before? Like, we've just absolutely been here before, time and time again. When is it going to change?
That's really an interesting question. I don't want to sound pessimistic. There's the possibility it may not change. And I'll tell you why. And I guess I'll have to put on my ministry hat for this one. I remember reading a passage where Jesus said that you will always have the poor among you. And he wasn't talking about people remaining in a social economic status. He was really talking about a mentality and a mindset. So the only way to change a mindset is to teach. But if no one is in a position to hear sound teaching, they're always going to lean to what they want to lean to. So one of the most powerful things in life is choice. People choose to believe or behave or act the way that they do, or they choose not to. Everyone has a will. And sometimes the will that they choose or the choice that they make is something negative, and it takes them down a spiral staircase, and they have nowhere else to look but up. And sometimes that's what their journey is going to be. They're going to have to climb out of that hole some kind of way because they hit rock bottom or they're near rock bottom. So I don't know how to answer that. I don't deal with racism. In other words, I'm not saying I don't experience it.
Right.
But
I know
I
what
look
you mean.
at it, that's a person's mentality.
Mm-hmm.
Who they're saying I am, that's not me. I know who I am. You must be talking to somebody else because you're not talking to me. That's my mentality.
It's not what they call you, it's what you answer to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if I do answer to it, I buy into their insanity. I can't do that.
Well, Minister Perry, I'm sorry, Perry Williams. No,
Hey, that's
I,
fine.
I'm telling you, I'm so proud to hear that. Now, you did, because we had spoken, I'm so happy to hear that you are in a leadership position, because a lot of this has to do with less protesting and more positioning, okay? And when you say that we have to teach, you have put yourself in that position, or you've been appointed to be in that position on several occasions, including doing ministry with your, again, amazing wife at Kingdom Now Ministries International. And so now this puts you in position to do a mindset, or to present a different type of mindset to a group of people, those that are open to listening and learning. What do you want your legacy to be? What do you want to be known for?
Wow, that's a big one. I want to be known as an individual who was very edifying to others, encouraging, never negative, always upbeat, and real. And my real may be different from other people. Some people say they're real, but they're not realistic. You know, I'm being real by saying, when you see me in the workplace, when you see me in ministry, when you see me on the street, I'm the same person. I'm the same person.
Wow.
Yeah, that's how how I identify. And like, people will see me and they'll hear me in public and they're like, "You sound the same as you do on the radio." Well, that's me. That's who I am,
Yeah.
you know? So yeah, and in just a few words, that's how I want to be recognized. You know, and it took me a journey to get to this point where I'm considering myself to be a real person. Yeah, yeah.
Love it. So, someone in your family is listening to this, say 30 years from now. What would you say to them? And we're talking about a young person that just had no clue about how much fun you've had in radio, how you've grown, how you've touched different individuals in your teachings. What do you want to say to them watching right now?
Live out your dream. Don't get removed from your square. It's, you know, broadcast industry, radio has been my dream since I was 12 years old.
Well, thank you so much, Mr. Perry Williams, for being on the LaDonna Raeh Show. It was such an amazing, amazing time that we had talking about everything he's done in radio, broadcasting, journalism, being a news anchor versus reporter, asking those very difficult questions, and just being himself. I love it, and I love it even more. Shout out to him and his family. And I just want to say, make sure you continue to follow Perry Williams' journey. As we get updates, we will let you know. But I am just always amazed at being able to talk to the people that I've heard even growing up. I've heard Perry Williams for the 36 years, okay? But here's the deal. Make sure that you subscribe to our channel. Make sure you subscribe to our channel, The LaDonna Raeh Show. We got to get those subscriptions so that you can get the notifications and make comments and tell us what you think. And I would love to have, your feedback so that we can move forward and continue to be entertaining, enlightening, and amazing for you. Yes. That's it. All right. I'm your host, LaDonna Raeh, on the LaDonna Raeh Show. And those of you that are just enjoying this summer, hey, I always say, I don't know how many more summers I have left, but I would want to spend each and every one of them with you. All right. That's it for me. Bye-bye for now. Peace.